This is Sean, and I'm going to talk to you about the financial crisis and the bailout and the Obama administration and the plans by them that they've already put into place to deal with the collapse. I believe, in all honesty, that the crisis that was presented to us around the time of the election was a false crisis. I don't know if everybody knew it at the time involved with it, but I think the main people did. And I think the reason that it happened was to help Obama get elected and then to help progressive ideas be put into place. Okay, let's just go over this. Obama came in during a fake financial crisis, which Bush also helped to create by his naive desire to save his legacy. We were given a false dilemma, either to help with the bailout, accept it, or see the entire economy collapse. Nobody even knew how to analyze this, and so we gave in, those of us who had any say in it. These fake crises have a name. They're called the Cloward-Piven strategy, and it's a way for leftists to get control of an economy that is not weak, and it's through a falsified crisis like this. But once the government becomes involved in the marketplace, there's never getting it out, in this case anyway, because we don't even know where the money's going. Okay, we have to look now at Obama and Marxism. Who is Obama and what's his purpose? Now, we know Obama doesn't have a lot of experience, but he's said many times that he was essentially a socialist, and he has also promised dramatic but undefined changes. And now he's moving into pouring in enormous amounts of money into various sectors, creating a de facto socialist union, something we've never even seen before in America. Okay, look at Marx's ideas. Number one, capitalism is the first stage. It creates the money and the wealth of the society, but it's an evil thing that destroys people and families and cultures by taking advantage of them for money. The wealthy few control the many poor. Capitalism is then said by Marx to ultimately collapse due to its own evil immorality. And then socialism takes over, which is the government controlling the creation and distribution of stuff. And then finally socialism subsides and Marxism takes over, where there's no private property owned and the decisions are all made by the government and personal rights are set aside for the good of the group. Alright, now what did Marx believe? Very, very simple, simplistic, easily refuted, yet intoxicating ideas to the credulous, the naive. One of the things he believed is that all labor is equal, even if it's one person's doing brain surgery and the other one's digging ditches, as long as you spend the same amount of time doing it. The second thing he believes is that the rich got their money from the poor, they stole it, and therefore ipso facto the rich are bad and the poor are good. And then C, he taught that the society must be liberated from the evils of capitalism and religion, even by force, if necessary, to help people. Okay, now given the trajectory of Obama's decision-making with help from George W., we're now plunging headlong into a socialism without even thinking about it. The government proposes we pump trillions of dollars into various industries and markets without any idea of the impact or even what it's supposed to achieve, except in some sense to save us. This is tragic, and it's going to have a bad impact. We need to ask these questions. Why is this path of the bailout the only one being considered? 2, what if our economy was not about to collapse when the politicians said it was? 3, why should the manner of our economy, being the greatest and fairest engine of wealth creation ever devised, be suddenly thrown onto the trash heap because of the words of a few politicians? Okay, what if the bailouts don't work? What if they make the problem worse? What if our economy permanently shrinks from so much government interference? And is socialism and Marxism, are they really better than capitalism? And if so, then why were so many people starved to death and killed in the USSR and China? Okay, ultimately, we have to put our trust in someone, Obama, with very little experience, who's an extreme leftist. And that's not a good situation. He's already made some huge mistakes. Given the fact that capitalism creates wealth, including the taxes that the government uses, and the government in turn can only be a parasite on that process, it is impossible for Obama's plan to flood the marketplace with free money printed up by the government to create anything but a disaster. All right, what is going to be the outcome of this? We're going off of feelings. We're not even analyzing this. But let's think about this for a few minutes. Where's all the money going to come from? Well, we know we're already hugely in debt, so the money that's going into the markets is going to be printed. It's going to be what they call fiat money. It's printed up in giant stacks and then handed out. By definition, this dilutes the money base, so it creates inflation and a devaluation of the money. And then investors avoid markets where the government's overly involved because they don't feel like they can really have a feel for how good the business is or what they'll get out of it. It's a terrible model, and you can see that many times in history. All right, the problem of market collapse and fiscal uncertainty, as we've gone through, it's terrible, but there's no real way to minimize the damage except to deal with it like any other problem in life as soon as you can and get the pain out of the way first. That's what Reagan did. He tightened the belt and he allowed the markets to correct themselves back in '81 after he got elected. He brought inflation way down, and the dollar went up, and we had the longest period of economic growth in U.S. history. It's better to go through the pain first instead of delaying it for years or decades. That makes sense. As a matter of fact, it's the only thing that makes sense. And think of it the other way. Imagine fighting a fire by pouring more gasoline onto it and expecting it to go away, to get smaller. So that's what we're doing. These markets have already gorged on cheap credit and bad credit. Now we're going to just pour more money down these markets. It cannot possibly have a good impact. All right. Obama and the Democrats' plan is bound to fail because it's against what created our economy. In the history, what made us the strongest economy in the world was capitalism. It's an attempt to deny economic gravity. It will be a much worse wound on America and the global markets than just accepting the losses and moving on. But it looks like Obama is in control, is going to get his way for a while until all of these mistakes blow up. We can only hope that people look at the mistakes and the failures and the markets getting worse and worse and say, you know, what Obama is doing is not helping, even though we know that he wants the government to take over as much of the marketplace as possible. And his goal is probably ultimately to create a European state in which the government is fully in control and the government has a lot of say in everything. And is that good or bad? Well, it's bad. Imagine now that the government's going to own the Detroit automakers. It'll tell them now to make energy efficient cars, and which saving energy is important, but if once the government gets involved in telling people what to do in their business, it's going to make idealistic as opposed to realistic decisions. So we have to hope that this mania for bailouts and free money and change will be eventually put aside before America is totally destroyed, because America is so important in the world. And even the people that attacked Bush, really, they had no idea. The things that we have accomplished around the world, the only thing that they thought about was Iraq. So we need to really hope and pray that America comes to its senses before total economic collapse occurs and we get rid of Obamanomics. Thank you. Good night.